Peter had a long and distinguished career in local government in Western Australia, much of it in regional communities, including 7 years as the CEO of the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. His time with the city came during an important period in our history. The town of Kalgoorlie and the Shire of Boulder had amalgamated in 1989 to form the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, bringing together two local governments and creating the organisation we know today. Peter was part of the early leadership of that newly formed city, helping guide the organisation through a significant period of change and growth. Prior to joining the city, he had served as Shire Clerk Supervisor at the Shire of Coolgardie from 1986 to 1989, reflecting his long-standing connection to the goldfields and regional local government. It was during his time with the city that Peter also faced one of the darkest moments in our organisation's history. The tragic events at the administration offices in 1992 when city engineer Hart Kerspian lost his life. During that incident, Peter showed extraordinary courage, putting himself at considerable personal risk to protect his staff and colleagues. His actions were recognised with a National Bravery Award. Peter went on to make a significant contribution to local government across Western Australia, continuing to serve in senior leadership, interim and advisory roles within the Shire of Wiluna, Shire of Leonora and the town of Port Hedland. On behalf of the Council and the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, I extend our sincere condolences to Peter's family, friends and former colleagues. We remember him with great respect and acknowledge his contributions to our city and to local government in Western Australia. Val, Peter. We'll now move on to item 3, which is the disclaimer reading. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on Council's website in accordance with the City's public participation in Council meeting policy, which can be viewed on the Council's website. All reasonable care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed your consent is given for your image to be broadcast. The recommendations contained in this agenda are officers' recommendations only and should not be acted upon until Council has resolved to adopt those recommendations. The resolutions of Council should be confirmed by pursuing the minutes of the Council meeting at which these recommendations were considered. Members of the public should also note that they will act at their own risk if they enact any resolution prior to receiving official written notification of Council's decision. Move on to item 4, which is the record of attendance. In attendance tonight, we're joined by Councillor Bodica, Councillor Della, Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Viskovich, Councillor House and Councillor Walker-Dunstan. We're also joined by members of staff, our Acting Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Jeff Glass. Welcome, Jeff, for your first meeting. We're also joined by our Director of Advocacy and Strategy in Mia Hicks, our Director of City and Community in Adam Stilane, our Director of Corporate and Commercial in Cassandra Yeager, our Manager of Marketing in Kobe Chris, our Coordinator of Governance, our Governance Officer and our IT Service Delivery Officer. We have 2 visitors in the gallery and no press currently present. Councillors, can I seek a motion that Council approve Councillor Johnson to attend and participate in tonight's meeting by telephone? Moved by Councillor Walker-Dunstan, seconded by Councillor Bodica. No objection. The motion is carried. Councillor Johnson, are you with us still online? Councillor Johnson, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Had you muted, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson, and welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
We'll move on to apologies. We have no apologies from elected members, but apologies from the Director of Engineering and the Director of Governance and Organisational Strategy. We do have a leave of absence in Mayor Glenn Wilson, who is back on deck at the end of this week. We'll move into item 5 in regards to response to previous public questions taken on notice. Councillors, I note there are several questions recorded in the agenda with answers provided. I don't intend to read all these questions out tonight along with their answers in the interest of time, as they are available in the agenda and will be further available in the minutes upon printing. With that, councillors, we move on to public access and public question time. 6.1 is public access, and Phil Stanley, a resident of Somerville, has a public access submission seeking to address council regarding the growing weed problem within the city, their status and possible control. Mr. Stanley, would you like to take the podium?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I wish to speak about the growing weed problem in our city. 4 weeds in particular: gazanias, ruby dock, fountain grass and buffel grass. These are all highly invasive species from Africa that have been declared as naturalised by DBCA, which means that the government has effectively given up on controlling them. That doesn't mean that we must. This problem will only get worse if we do nothing about it, and when they take over more of our public spaces and private gardens, the pressure and the cost to control them will only be greater. I believe that we can get in front of this problem by developing a plan that is adequately funded to educate the public and educate the council staff on the life cycles of the weeds and how best to control them. Asking the Kalgoorlie miner to stop publishing photos of ruby dock along with our wildflowers every spring would help. Maybe we can turn an eradication program into a point of differentiation from the tourism perspective. Tourists generally want to see something different, like our local native plants, not introduced weeds. In the Northern Territory, there are groups working on control measures for buffel grass, and the Goldfields Naturalist Club and K-Bowls are also involved in research that is being conducted at La Trobe University into the DNA of gazanias to develop a biological control. These local groups would probably welcome an approach by CKB to assist in developing a plan of action. And I would urge council to contact them or somebody and do some research to try and get on top of this problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stanley, and I appreciate you coming down tonight and presenting to council. The next item, councillors, is item 6.2, public question time. Unfortunately, Mr. David Oates did submit 2 questions tonight, but he's unable to be in the room. That being said, the questions were submitted in time, so I will read the questions out tonight, and officers have kindly provided a response to those questions, which we'll also read. So, Councillor Donald.
Just a point of clarification. Are you going to read? Are these what you're referring to?
No, Councillor Donald. The questions I'm referring to is public question time questions from Mr. David Oates.
Thank you.
So the questions from Mr. David Oates, resident of Kalgoorlie, is asking the following 2 questions. The first question was, what is the total financial sum that the council contributed towards the Diggers and Dealers building? In response, the city has contributed $7.9 million for the Goldfields Arts Centre Pavilion, which will be available for community and commercial use, including the Diggers and Dealers Conference. Question 2 was, what is the projected annual financial returns to the council from the Diggers and Dealers Conference? The response to this question is, the city receives income through higher fees for the exclusive use of the Goldfields Arts Centre, and from this year, the Goldfields Arts Centre Pavilion, in accordance with the city's fees and charges. These will adjust yearly based upon the adoption of fees and charges, noting that in accordance with the council's resolution as of the 28th of May 2026, the city will bring back a report prior to or by the October 2026 OCM to specifically review the fees and charges of the Goldfields Arts Centre Pavilion. For this year's conference, income received was $133,737, including GST. They were all the questions that were received. We'll move on to item 7, which is petitions, deputations and presentations. And we do have a petition from Councillor Bodica that should like to present to council. Councillor Bodica, would you like to move to have the petition received by council? Can I have a seconder to receive this? Councillor Dalla. Councillor Bodica, would you like to speak to the item?
So just clarifying, I'm just reading the statement of purpose and then the reasons for the petition. Is that correct? I've been asked by numerous people. I've actually got a petition of over 100 signatures at the moment in relation to what's going on with the e-scooters. We, the undersigned electors and residents of the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, respectfully request that Council implement an immediate ban on all e-scooters and rideable devices from operating on the footpaths directly under the verandas of Hannon Street, Kalgoorlie, and Burt Street, Boulder. The reason for the petition is that there's concerns about high speeds on narrow footpaths pose a direct collision risk to elderly residents, children and people with mobility devices. There's blind spots there as well. Verandas, support posts and shop doorways severely restrict visibility, making it impossible to see fast-moving scooters emerging around corners that are going at a really rapid pace. Economic impact: customers feel unsafe walking under the verandas, directly affecting foot traffic and trade for local retailers. They're also requesting that Council take immediate action to address this issue by increasing local ranger patrols and enforcement in the Kalgoorlie-Boulder CBD zones, installing clear visible signage under CBD verandas indicating that scooter riding on these specific footpaths is prohibited, and reviewing local laws and public awareness campaigns regarding the safe and legal operation of e-ridables in commercial pedestrian areas. There's still petitions out there at the moment, so these petitions, we've got over 100 signatures on it, but we're still waiting for people to bring the rest of them in at the moment. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
So, shall I hand that to you?
Councillor Boddicker. Hold on to it at the moment, please. Councillor Dowd, would you like to speak to the item? No. Would any members like to speak to the item? Councillor House, for or against it? Thank you.
I thank the councillor for putting forward the motion. The importance I feel for the organisation with respect to this motion is how you would facilitate such a request. The means would be through the local laws. So it's fortuitous that the organisation has taken the opportunity to review its local laws. I see this as being a good opportunity to have it covered through that process. So thanks for the councillor for tabling this today, and I wish her the best of luck.
Thank you, Councillor House. Any other councillors like to speak to the item? No. With that, we will put it to a vote. All those councillors in support of Councillor Boddicker's petition, please raise your hand. Sorry, Councillor Viskovich, do you have a question?
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. I'm just not 100% sure on this process. Can I just get a quick rundown on what happens when a petition comes through?
Might hand that straight across to our acting CEO.
Yeah, so it comes to the administration. We look at the merit or otherwise of the purpose of the petition, and then ultimately report back to council as to what action may or may not be possible from that petition.
A follow-up question, Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you. So we're just voting on whether we would like this petition to be given to the administration team to look into. Perfect. Thank you.
That's correct. Thank you. With that, I will call for the votes. All those councillors in support of the petition being passed through, please raise your hand. Councillor Johnson, thank you. The item is passed 8-0. Thank you very much, Councillor Boddicker, which I will pass through to the acting CEO. A question? Councillor Boddicker.
Given the fact, just to the CEO, given the fact that there's still a lot more petitions out there, shall I just hand those directly through to the council officers, or what should I do? Or I don't have to bring it back to council again, do I? The remainder, because there's quite a few of them still out there in the community that haven't been handed back in yet.
In relation to this petition?
In relation to the petition.
Thank you, Councillor Boddicker. Mr. CEO.
Yeah, I mean, the petition and the purpose of the petition has already been lodged with the council, so we don't need to consider that again, but they can be added, and the names and addresses of those who've expressed interest via the petition, obviously they'll be communicated with ultimately, so they would just simply be added to what we already have.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. With that, councillors, will move on to notations of interest. Are there any, under 8.1, any interest affecting partiality? Any councillors like to submit? I have none on record to date. Nil. Item 8.2, financial interest, Local Government Act, Section 5.60A. I do have a financial interest from Councillor O'Donnell. Who has declared a financial interest on item 14.5.3, approval to award RFT 26017, reconstruction of Burt Street and Lionel Street roundabout, as he tenders on roadworks within the city, and also have a financial interest from Councillor Walker Dunstan, who has declared a financial interest on item 14.6.1 D058/26, telecommunications infrastructure, 255 Hay Street, Kalgoorlie, as her eldest son works in telecommunication and networking. Are there any other financial interests, councillors? Nil. Are there any proximity interests, councillors? And nil. Thank you very much. Applications for leave of absence. I have no applications for leaves of absence at this point. No one wants to submit a late one. Leave of absence? No. Thank you very much. Item 9.2, procedural motion to suspend section 9.1 of the Standing Orders Local Law 2023. I'd like to call for a mover to move that section 9.1 of the Standing Orders Local Law 2013, which requires members of council to rise to speak, be suspended. Moved Councillor Viskovich, seconded Councillor Bodica. No opposition. That is carried. That is carried 8-0. Moving forward, councillors, the next item is announcements by the person presiding without discussion. We do have on the screen the Mayor's announcements, which we'll slowly scroll through. As we can see, the Mayor, prior to going on leave, did attend a number of meetings, ranging from stakeholder engagement, events, advocacy pieces, and some media commitments as well. And these will be included moving forward in the minutes as well. Thank you. Moving forward to item 11, which is a confirmation of minutes. We have two meetings. Councillors, the first one is there is a recommended procedural motion that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 20th of July 2026 be confirmed as a true record of that meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved Councillor Viskovich, seconded Councillor Walker Dunstan. Councillor Viskovich, would like to speak to the item? Councillor Walker Dunstan, would any councillors like to speak to the item? Nil, no opposition. The item is carried 8-0. The next set of minutes we have is that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on the 22nd July 2026 be confirmed as a true record of that meeting. Can I again have a mover and a seconder for this item? Moved Councillor Della. Seconded Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Della, would you like to speak to the item? Councillor O'Donnell. Any councillors like to speak to the item? No opposition. Nil. The item is carried 8-0. Item 12, motions of which notice has been given. There has been none. Item 13, urgent business approved by the person presiding or by decision. There is nil. Councillors, I have had indication of a procedural motion that has come through from Councillor House, and that is that Council alters the order of business to bring forward item 16, questions of which due notice has been given, for consideration immediately prior to item 14, reports of officers. Just going to defer to the CEO for a moment, councillors. Mr. CEO, is there a requirement to, obviously Councillor House is moving the motion, do we require a seconder prior to a reason for the motion being given, or is Councillor House able to supply the reason of motion given it's a procedural?
If he moves and provides the reason.
Thank you very much. Councillor House, would you like to provide the reason for the procedural motion?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. The reason that I'd like for the item to be brought before the officer recommendation is so that councillors have all the information available to them relative to that particular item that is in the report. the questions that have been tabled for the officers to respond to fundamentally inform the decision making relating to that item. If the answers are provided after the items are considered and resolved, it makes the entire process of asking the question redundant in the first place. So I would ask that the questions be put before the officer recommendations, that there's opportunity to question and scrutinise that information, and it's open and transparent for the community to know how councillors are making decisions on the night.
Thank you, Councillor House. I'd like to call for a seconder for Councillor House's procedural motion. Seconded by Councillor Walker-Dunstan. Councillors, as this is a procedural motion, there is no debate, so we'll move straight to a vote. All those councillors in favour of Councillor House's procedural motion, please raise your hand. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those against?
Against.
3. The item is passed 5 votes to 3. Please bear with me, councillors. Just wait for the screen to catch up as well. Thank you. So councillors will now consider item 16, questions of which due notice have been given. Councillors, I note the questions have been included in the agenda. We have been supplied in front of all of us as well a copy of the answers to those to be tabled tonight. Mr. CEO, is there any additional information required, or does this have to be, as the answers are being tabled as opposed to provided, do these need to be adopted or ratified by council, or it's just noted at this point?
They were taken as questions on due notice, of which there's a time requirement for that, so they were received. Answers to those were not able to be compiled in time for the actual issue of the agenda on Friday. But the standing orders refer to the fact that they can either be included within the agenda or tabled. So they're being tabled for the information of councillors in their consideration of those items. They supplement, if you like, the questions that were also considered at the agenda briefing, where these items were also discussed and considered.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. And just confirm me, would the responses be provided in the minutes as well?
Yeah, so these questions will be included within the minute as a record of the meeting.
Thank you very much. So, councillors, as per 3.9.2 of the standing orders, these have now been tabled for council in relation to the questions that were asked. With that, councillors, normally we would have an en bloc discussion in regards to items on block, but given all but one item was removed from block, tonight we're just going to consider all items in their merits and we'll work through them one by one. To start with, we'll move into item 14, which is reports of officers. 14.4 is the corporate and commercial, and 14.4.1 is the Terry truck rental airport. There is, bear with me, Councillor House, you have a procedural you'd like to call for this one? Is that correct? Can you please state your procedural?
The procedural motion is that council adjourns consideration of item 14.4.1 to the September or October 2026 ordinary council meeting and refers the matter back to the administration to provide a revised report including the full proposed draft lease agreement, explicitly clarifying responsibilities for tenant fit-outs and full indemnification for relocation in the event of future terminal developments, annual price ratchet mechanisms or escalation terms, and termination clauses coordinated with the upcoming airport master plan. That's as read, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor House. Just checking, it's relating to item 11.1B, that the question is adjourned or the procedural motion, I believe. Mr. CEO, if it is a procedural motion to adjourn, can items be added as part of that adjournment? If the item is being proposed to be adjourned as a procedural motion, I note that there is a request for a clarification of information. Just checking procedurally, that would fit under item 11.1B of the standing orders.
So,
Given it's a clarification, my interpretation is it's fine. I
so
just wanted to
are you
check.
seeking clarification of any aspect of
The request for
motion
adjournment.
tonight?
Correct. Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Well, my understanding would be procedural motion is that it's once again as the previous one, that is, that it's not a subject for debate. It's a matter of whether it's accepted or otherwise by the meeting. So obviously needs someone to second, and then it's the opinion of the council.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. With that, we have a procedural motion moved by Councillor House. Do we have a seconder for this procedural? Councillor Walker-Dunstan. Again, councillors, as this is a procedural, this item is not for debate. We'll go straight to a vote. All those in favour of the... Sorry, Councillor House, a question before I...
Point of order. Do I get to speak to the reasoning for the procedural motion?
My apologies, Councillor House. I believe that you had, but yes, you do. If you wanted to state the reason for the procedural.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. Might refer to my notes on this one just to be consistent. So, council is being requested under Section 3.58 of the Local Government Act to dispose of property for a term of up to 10 years without being provided the draft lease agreement. So at a very basic level, we don't know what that lease is. We haven't seen it. Adjourning the item ensures council can review the actual contractual terms and indemnifies to protect ratepayers from tenant fit-out compensation exposure during upcoming terminal refurbishments. These questions were asked at the meeting, and they were raised that there were issues relating to the design concepts, that booze will be part of the design concepts, and it is ensuring that we're protecting ourselves contractually to enable so that the actual tenant has no recourse to come back and seek compensation for damages caused to not being not approving to where they are relocating to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor House. My apologies on missing that reason for motion. Councillors, will now move the item, the procedural motion by Councillor House, seconded by Councillor Walker-Dunstan, to the vote. All those councillors in favour, please raise your hand. We have Councillor Bodica, Councillor House, Councillor Walker-Dunstan, and myself, Deputy Mayor. All those against? We have... Thank you, Councillor Johnson. We have Councillor Della, Councillor Donald, Councillor Viskovich, and Councillor Johnson against. Therefore, the procedural motion is defeated, 5 votes to 4. With that, councillors will now consider the... My apologies. I'm basing it on the Mayor still being present. With that, councillors, on a procedural motion, Mr. CEO, does the Mayor have a casting vote?
I would have thought at all times you have a casting vote.
Thank you. Councillors, based on my position's always been with a casting vote that it should be a negative at all times, regardless of where your vote goes. I'm going to use the casting vote to vote against it at this point in time because the item can always be brought back. So the item is defeated 5 votes to 4. With that, we'll now consider the item itself. We do have an amendment to the item from Councillor Viskovich. Councillor Viskovich, what is your amendment?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You'd just like me to read the full amendment out? Or just the, sorry, yep, so
Apologies,
just
just
point
point
5.
five.
I'd just like to add in the word negative so that it states, notes that if any negative submissions are received, a further report will be presented to Council for consideration before the licence agreement is finalised.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Della. Councillor Viskovich would like to speak to the item.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This is only a small amendment. I absolutely support this community having the opportunity to make submissions through the public notice process. However, if the submissions received are supportive of the proposal, I don't raise any concerns. I don't believe we need to use additional administration time preparing another report simply to bring the matter back to Council. If a negative submission is received, then I absolutely believe it should come back to Council so we can consider the concerns raised. For that reason, I am proposing we simply add the word negative to point 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Councillor Della.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for raising that change, Councillor Viskovich. This is a relatively straightforward commercial licence renewal, and the proposed 5-year term plus a 5-year option is consistent with the existing airport commercial arrangements and has taken into consideration our future airport works. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Della. Point of order, Councillor House.
Not be aware, she wasn't at the briefing, and she may not have had the opportunity to read this either. But the
Sorry, Mr Mayor, point of order. What's the point of order?
the point of order is there's information contrary to what the councillor has just tabled. It was straight from the officers, Mr Deputy.
Thank you, Councillor House. I actually need to know what point of order you're looking to reference in that one.
The point of order is in relation to having accurate information tabled as part of the discussion. So the officers have said that the master plan hasn't been endorsed by council. So what the councillor was alluding to is that this has all been cemented, finalised through the master plan. It hasn't. So that needs to be tabled to say that the officers have already said not part of council's endorsed documentation. This is up in limbo.
Bear with me, please, councillors. I'm just referring to the point of order itself within the standing orders.
Officers can interject at any time with clarification, Mr Deputy.
Thank you, Councillor House. It's more in regards to the point of order, whether it's a valid point of order request. Mr CEO, would you be able to provide any additional information on this, please?
I don't consider it a point of order. I consider that it's the councillor is making their decision based on the information they have. There's been the agenda briefing, supplementary information, further supplementary information, and is making their decision based on that information. I don't think making that decision, in seconding or moving this is in of itself warrants a point of order.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, thank you for that. I've just checked within there. Looking at the 3 items that can be considered a valid point of order, at this point in time, Councillor House, the point of order request isn't valid in that regard, but I do note what you've raised. The 3 point of order options is under 15.4, and that is A, that the discussion is of a matter not before council or committee. B, that offensive or insulting language is being used, or C, drawing attention to the violation of any written law or policy of the local government, provided that the member making the point of order states the written law or policy believed to be breached. With that, Councillor Dillard, you were finished with your comments? Yep, thank you very much. Councillors, will any councillors like to speak against this item? Councillor House.
I would like to speak against this item because of the purely strategic nature of our role and the lack thereof in this report. What we've been asked to consider is a lease for 5 years with a 5-year option, so a 10-year lease. Now that's a long period of time for a lease, and without certainty around what is going to happen at the airport, it's up in the air. And with the lease, as the officers have advised, I'm not confident that there is certainty in the lease that gives us contractual protection that there's no recourse for compensation if the tenant is unsatisfied with their new arrangement. What I can't understand is if we're going through the process presently of doing the conceptual designs and really the early design work, why aren't we having these conversations and having some some agreement included as part of the lease that covers this? So we're thinking strategically and we're acting smartly by trying to cut this off before it becomes a problem. I support, naturally, business, and I support council taking advantage of its land opportunities, but it has to be done so through a strategic, coordinated plan. We've had this master plan for the airport in existence since 2017. 2017. So for us to say, well, we don't have one. We very well could have. So it's disappointing we don't, but hopefully that is resolved soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor House. Do we have a speaker for? Question, Councillor Dillon?
Thank you. Could I just clarify, were those responses not provided and tabled tonight for council?
Thank you, Councillor Della. The question was, Mr. CEO, was the questions raised from Councillor House included as part of the information provided with the questions being tabled?
I interpreted what Councillor House said as his opinion. So, as I mentioned, there have been a number of opportunities for councillors to be briefed and questioned on this particular subject. So, all information, in my view, has been put before the councillors, including the latest round of questions. So I think the information is there.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Thank you, Councillor Della. Councillors, I will go back for the call. Any councillor like to speak for the item? Against? For? Before the mover has the right to reply, councillors, I will speak at this point for the item. Councillors, the item supports the continued operations of a long-standing airport business while preserving our flexibility for future airport redevelopments. The proposed licence provides certainty for the operator, generates ongoing revenue for the city, and retains council's ability to relocate the business should future terminal upgrades be required, as previously outlined by city officers. I feel that city officers have a very clear understanding of council's expectation when it comes to this particular item and the flexibility that we're requiring, as well as the potential concerns around liability, as has been discussed at previous concept forums. So therefore, I think that it strikes an appropriate balance at this point in time between supporting business activity and protecting the city's long-term airport plans. And, and as a result, I'll be supporting this item tonight in this regard with the amended change in there. With that, councillors, the mover has a right to reply.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd just also like to confirm that I do believe that the city officers have dealt with this business and are of the understanding that The master plan has not been endorsed by council, and the leaseor has also been in communications with the team to ensure that there is a master plan in play. It is a plan that we wish to put forward as soon as possible. And as mentioned in the responses from the questions taken on notice, the city should not be constrained by the tenant's preferred location if it does not align with the approved master plan. I don't believe that we should be holding up a tenant's lease with a possibility of a master plan coming into play within this timeframe. So I would like to see us all vote for this lease agreement to move forward as soon as possible to avoid any further delays. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. With that, councillors, I will put the item to the vote. Or councillors in support of this amended recommendation proposed by Councillor Viskovich and seconded by Councillor Della, please raise your hand. We have Councillor Bodica, Councillor Della, Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Viskovich, and the Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Johnson. All those opposed? We have Councillor House and Councillor Walker-Dunstan. As a result, the item is passed 6 votes to 2. Councillors, now move on to item 14.4.2, Accounts Payable Report, July 2026. Bear with me, councillors. Councillors, we do have a amended motion proposed by Councillor House. Councillor House, would you like to state your proposed amendment?
This is an amendment, so it's in addition to directs the Chief Executive Officer to present an ICT software subscription and licensing audit report to the Audit and Risk Committee by Q2 26-27, identifying duplicate services, underutilised software and targeted annual cost savings. Do you would like me to talk for the reason?
Not just yet. Please, Councillor House. Councillors, do we have a seconder for this? Is it an alternative, Mr. CEO, or an amended recommendation?
Well, it really isn't it deals with a subject, in my view, that's not relating to the accounts payable. It's a supplementary request, and merit or otherwise, the accounts payable, it's a matter of receiving or not, the accounts paid.
So alternative is more appropriate at this point in time then?
At best.
Thank you very much. Question, Councillor House, let me get a seconder for this one first, then I'm happy to go to a question. Do we have a seconder for the alternative recommendation presented by Councillor House? Beforehand? Not yet. In that case, I will go to a question first. Councillor House, you had a question first, then I'll go to Councillor Della.
Look, the acting CEO's made a fair and valid point. The question that I'd put to the CEO, back to the CEO, is what would be the appropriate avenue or vessel to make this question?
Thank you, Councillor House. I'll hand over to you, Mr. CEO. I'd imagine it would be through a notice of motion, but I will hand to you, Mr. CEO.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest. I mean, there's provision for new matters to be raised, and so it would be in that form that I would raise it.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor Della, your question?
Mine was the same one. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. With those two questions asked, I will call before the item will lapse, or the alternative will lapse. Is there a seconder? Councillor House, just your microphone, please.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Withdraw the alternative. Thank you, Councillor House. With that in mind, councillors, we will revert back. You're testing me tonight, councillors. We will revert back to the officer's recommendation for items 14.4.2, Accounts Payable Report, July 2026, and I'll call for a mover and a seconder for this. Moved, Councillor Viskovich, seconded. Councillor Della. Councillor Viskic, would you like to speak to the item? Councillor Della, would you like to speak to the item? Any councillors like to speak to this item? Nil. Is there nil opposition to the item? Nil noted. With that, the motion is passed. 8 votes to 7 votes. Nil. Sorry. Do we have it noted when Councillor Boddicker left the room? Thank you very much. She sneaked away on me on that one. Thank you, Councillor Della, for the spot. Just to confirm again, that item was passed 7 votes, nil. We'll now move on to item 14.4.3, which is the Statement of Financial Activity, June 2026. I do have a proposed amended motion again from Councillor House. Councillor House, thank you for sending these through. It has made my life a little bit easier tonight as well. Councillor House, would you like to state your amendment to the motion?
I didn't pick up on that sarcasm at all there, Mr. Deputy, but I will read out my my motion. So this is in addition to, I'm proposing it as an amendment. It is directs the CEO to present a financial remediation and capital project delivery action plan to the October 26 Ordinary Council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor House. Is there a seconder to this alternative recommendation? A question? I'll see if there's a seconder first, if possible. Is there a seconder? Not yet. Okay. Councillor Viskovic, you have a question?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I feel this may be in the same situation as the previous item that we could, it's redirecting the direction of the motion.
So the question is?
Is this in the same position as the previous item?
Thank you very much, Councillor Viskovic. Mr. CEO.
I would. I mean, it's actually requesting supplementary work of the city, and we would, in fact, we would need to be able to provide advisors to the capability and timing and the scope of that work, to be quite honest, before the council, in my view, would be able to make an informed decision on that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovic. A point of order.
With the motion itself and the element of the intent and being supplementary to, I just want to really understand what does it mean by supplementary to, and in reference to intent, I've got to presume the intent element relates to changing the outcome or the intended outcome of what the officers have recommended. This and previous procedural motions, this doesn't go anywhere near towards touching the intent, because it leaves the officer recommendation intact. It doesn't change it at all. It says that we're receiving the statement of financial activity. So that was the original motion, and we're doing that. What my motion is proposing is to say that I, as an elected member, have read the documentation, and there is a gap in my knowledge. And I think this, as a councillor, we only get to make, well, really one meeting a month to make decisions.
Sorry, Councillor House, you are entering a little bit into the debate here. I won't accept it as a point of order because it is invalid based on those conditions. However, I'm happy to accept it as a question. Mr. CEO, did you get the gist of the question from there, or would you like it to be reworded back?
Look, I'm not sure that I really fully understand. I think, and it may be we just have a different interpretation, but I think to receive the statement of financial activity is one thing. To then out of that make an observation or a request for certain work to be done, I think is a different matter. So that's why it's a supplement to the receipt of the statement of financial activity.
A follow-up question, Councillor House?
doesn't it make it redundant that the SOFA report is presented to us and we're asked to receive it, but then we can't do anything with it, and we have to go through a pretty rigorous process for a notice of motion. I'm just not understanding when we're talking about intent. What we're talking about, the intent of this report is to inform the councillors, the elected members, of the financial health of the organisation. And if there isn't an opportunity to say, hey, look, I think we need more information in this space, or I think this gap needs to be filled, that should be the opportune time to do that, because what other opportunity do we have to talk about financial matters in the public space that has statutory obligations to that, Mr. Deputy?
Thank you, Councillor House. I do have the question from there. Thank you. Mr. CEO, it's a matter of, and I'll rephrase the question, Councillor House, if I may, and please correct me if I'm incorrect. What mechanisms outside of the notice of motion is there for council to request additional items relating to financial matters?
Sorry, what the question again?
1 second, please, Councillor Johnson. We'll just have Mr. CEO answer the question first, and then I will come to you.
Sorry, can you ask the question again?
Sure. From what I've managed to interpret from Councillor House is, outside of the notice of motion, is there any other mechanisms or avenues to request additional information or provide direction on items relating to financial matters, in particular the statement of financial activities?
Well, I mean, I think that's why there are those notices of motion effectively for new business. So this is provided for information and receipt, and there may be one or a range of other things that could emerge from it. But I think that they're all would require further direction to the administration to undertake that work, and therefore, in my view, are supplementary to the receipt of the statement.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor. Just a point of clarification. Under the supplementary statement, we're asked to receive it. That's the very first line. What's being proposed is changing the intent of that motion. I endorse what the CEO is saying.
Sorry, Councillor Johnson, what is the question within that?
Directors.
Deputy Mayor, can I please call a procedural motion 11.1D that the question now be put?
Unfortunately, Councillor Visvich, I can't. We don't have a seconder for this one yet. We haven't gotten the chance to ask for a seconder. So before we go for a procedural, I will call, is there a seconder for, you'll be the seconder? So moved by Councillor House, seconded by Councillor Visvich. Councillor House, would you like to speak to the item?
I'll only briefly, we've laboured on long enough. Quite frankly, Mr. Deputy, this isn't the first time that I've asked for this, and it's quite interesting that we've had 4 interpretations of the same thing. The local laws are very clear to me in terms of what the obligations are of the CEO and also the remit of the presiding member. If the presiding member so chose right now, we could pass any resolution we so choose fit. Anything we wish that was fit for this agenda item. So there is no obligation from elected members to stand by and say, well, we have to accept this as it is. If we so chose, we could put any financial request as part of this. So it's really tiresome that the elected member is asking for information. I'm not doing anything other than saying I want some more information because the information that is being provided is insufficient. Every time it gets pushed back. There is no, and the reason why I'm saying, well, what is the avenue that I'm supposed to take? Because we have internal processes that I use and I don't get the information. I don't have any other opportunity except for a notice of, of motion, where the notice of motion is saying, well, as officers, we're going to ask you to go through a completely different process rather than using the most, I'd say, efficient process that's available. You're considering a financial element of the council. I'm requesting a financial report. I just don't see where it's the intent is missing at all. And to this date, not one acting CEO has given me a clear, articulated understanding of how the intent has been broken. To receive the financial report and then to say anything supplementary to that is not related, it's perplexing, very perplexing.
Thank you, Councillor House. Councillor Viskovich.
Procedural motion that the question now be put, 11.1D.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. As you haven't spoken to the item yet, we can accept that as a procedural motion. 11.1.D, that the item is now heard. Mr. CEO, is for, in particular, item 11.1.D, is there a requirement for a seconder for a procedural that the item is heard, or is it heard given the fact that the elected member hasn't spoken yet? My apologies. Councillor Viskovich is the seconder, and as she hasn't spoken to the item, she's chose to move a procedural that the item is now heard. No, I don't believe that Councillor Viskovich can under the standing orders. It was just more of a check if it needed to be pushed through. However, I'm confident, councillors, as the presiding member, that that's not required, so we will move straight to a vote. Councillors, or those in favour of the alternative recommendation put forward by Councillor House and seconded by Councillor Viskovich, please raise your hand. Or those opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. The item is defeated. 2 votes to 6. We will revert back to the officer's recommendation. And councillors, can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Moved by Councillor Viskovich, seconded by Councillor Della. Councillor Viskovich, would you like to speak to the item? No. Councillor Della, would you like to speak to the item? No. Is there any members of council like to speak against the item? Councillor House.
I read this and I was concerned. I was really concerned. I was concerned that the airport revenue is tracking well behind when we have literally based our entire mid-year budget on the premise that the airport revenue will increase. We don't want to ask any questions or probe that. That's unbelievable. What's also unbelievable is we have projects in there where we're saying, as an organisation, we're saving money. I'm amazed that we're saving money, but when we've still got footpaths that are unfinished, that we've got potholes that are incomplete or patched up. If we're looking at this and saying there's nothing to see here, I've got a question. What are we looking at? Because the numbers are very obvious, and it's very frustrating that I'm trying to put these questions to the council, and I'm trying to add to the administration in the most appropriate way that I feel is necessary. And I've been given advice from my fellow elected members to change that delivery, and I can't think of an other way. So if the councillors want to give me some assistance, advice, anything, and if they're not concerned by these numbers, they should say that too. I'm concerned by these numbers, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor House. Speakers for? Speakers against? Speakers for? Councillors, before the mover has a right to reply, I will speak to the item for the item. Councillors, I found that the June statement provides a useful end-of-year snapshot of the city's financial position. What stood out to me, as highlighted by Councillor House, is that both income and expenditure finished below budget, and a number of major variances relating to the project timing and extended grant delays are related, to project timing and external grant delays rather than just financial distress. I'm very interested to see the impact that this will have and has had on the 26-27 financial year projections and efficiency dividend expectations. And I feel Council will need to continue to focus on project delivery, long-term financial sustainability and ensuring deferred projects are progressed in the current financial year. I would encourage Councillor House to also consider the notice of motion if he's chasing more information. And I'd be interested to see a lot of that information that was highlighted as well by Councillor House moving forward. Our finances Council remains something that I know we're well across and we have been for some time, and I think it's important we continue to ask questions and look for ways that we can continue to deliver the best outcomes for our city. Thank you. The mover has the right to reply.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate and I do understand Councillor House's comments and concerns. However, I believe this motion is only to receive the report, and I believe there's other avenues to gain the information and agree that it would be of interest to receive these reports. I just don't believe that this motion is the process to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Councillors will now put the item to the vote. All those councillors for the motion moved by Councillor Viskovich, seconded by Councillor Della, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? 3. The item is passed, 5 votes to 3. Councillors, we now move to item 14.5.1 of the engineering session, which is the speed limit changes on Kalgoorlie and Boulder CBD. Councillors, I do have a procedural motion which has been put forward by Councillor House. Councillor House, would you like to state your procedural motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. The procedural motion is that Council adjourns consideration of item 14.5.1 to the November 2026 ordinary meeting and refers the matter back to the administration until such time as Council is provided with 1. A comprehensive project delivery, budget and construction schedule for the funded state black spot safety upgrade at Maratana and Brookman Streets, and formal advice from Main Roads WA regarding their statutory requirements and technical criteria for speed zoning on city-managed CBD corridors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor House. Would you like to state your reason for this procedure?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy. So the reason for my motion is to ensure engineering and operational resources remain fully focused on delivering the existing funded black spot road safety commitments before initiating unrequested consultation across 5 major CBD corridors.
Thank you, Councillor House. Before I call a seconder, Mr. CEO, I just want to check that before we... Oh no, actually I can't do that. This is my correction. I can't ask questions either. So, councillors, I will ask for a seconder for this procedure. Sorry, Councillor House.
Why can't you ask questions? You're the presiding member.
As this is a procedural motion, I'm councillor much like everyone else for it.
No, this is the only time the presiding member isn't like everybody else.
Thank you, Councillor House. At this point, I'm going to refrain from going any further with any questions on it, and I'll call for a seconder first on the item. As it is a procedural motion, do we have a seconder? Councillor Walker-Dunstan. Councillor House, would you like to speak? Nope, sorry, you've provided a reason for it. Yep, thank you very much. With that, councillors, we will put the procedural motion to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor House's procedural motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand.
Opposed.
The procedural motion is lost 2 votes to 6. With that, councillors, we'll go back to the officer's recommendation. And may I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Moved Councillor Viskovich, seconded Councillor Della. Councillor Viskovich would like to speak to this item. No. Councillor Della would you like to speak to the item. Councillor Della.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'll be supporting the officer's recommendation, as this is tonight not permanently to impose the 40-kilometre limit. It's asked to endorse a consultation and further technical assessment. And from what I've heard in particularly the City of Vincent, it's shown perspective of where the community has also changed. From being 50-50, they're now fully supportive of the improved pedestrian activity and the adopted change. And I see this as sensible as a first way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Della. Any councillor members would like to speak against this item? Councillor House.
I honestly, I got to question whether everybody's reading stuff, because when you can proceed, do whatever you want. You let me finish. Just say that the council has the city officers have voluntarily put this
Sorry, Councillor
forward.
House, one moment. Councillor Donald.
Roger, Mr Acting Mayor, the council's accusing us...
Sorry, Councillor, are you calling a point of order or a
Yes,
procedure?
apologies, a point of order. The council is accusing us, other councillors, of not doing our job, in effect, and not reading. And I would like that taken back.
Sorry, Councillor O'Donnell, so you're looking at item 15.4.
Yep, apologies, I didn't bring my point of order.
That's quite all right.
I should be numbering it. I
Yep,
apologise.
That's quite all right. So 15.4, I'm assuming B, that offensive or insulting language be used, or drawing attention to violation of written law, or that the discussion is a matter not before council and committee.
I'll retract whatever is.
That's okay. Thank you, Councillor Donald. Councillor House, withdrawing that comment. Thank you very much. Please continue, Councillor House.
I'll withdraw the comment. The point that I'm making here is the city officers have voluntarily elected to put this forward to council. This has not come from the community. It has not come from the emergency services. It has come from the officers. But the officers have failed to divulge to us that is fundamentally critical is the funding we have from the Black Spot program that is relating to this area. It is a critical component to understand about speed limits, about road design, about road function, and we don't know when that project is going to be finished. We don't know when it's going to start. So without any of that information, I actually question how can you do the consultation when we don't know what the treatment is going to look like. If we have said we're going to do something, the Black Spot program, I've got to assume that there's a risk there. And if the longer we leave that risk, the higher the potential. And that's just how risk works. So my question, or it's not even a question, my statement that I would like to make here is if we have a safety issue that we have been awarded grant funds for, when are we spending that money? When is that project going to be finished? When can we say to the community, we achieved what we said we we're going to achieve?
Thank you, Councillor House. Any speakers for the item? Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I think this is a good initiative. I'm amazed it hasn't come up earlier. One criteria is in 4 years, 21 to 25, 201 crashes occurred in the CBDs. 201. That's around 50 a year. And that's where most of our pedestrians, most of our families all congregate at various times. And any initiative to help eradicate those crashes has my full support. Dropping the speed limit down there will help if there is the potential for a crash. The driver has a better opportunity to brake in time to prevent that, or minimal damage. And also, should a child run out in the middle of the road, the driver has a better chance of stopping in time. I've seen Egan Street has just ballooned since Coles has opened up. That is so close and so tight. Even if you drive down there at 30 kilometres an hour, you feel squeezed in there, and to bring it down from 60, because people are allowed to drive at 60 if they want to, and I think that is the recipe where we've had these crashes, because we can't allow them to keep driving at 60 in these congested areas, and and as I've stated before, from policing background, I know I'm repetitive, but we've said ever since I joined the job, speed kills. They say it over and over and over again. And I'm very much in favour of seeking this out, finding out, is it a go, can it be done? And I commend the officers for bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Speakers against the item? Speakers for?
Please, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Johnson.
I find the debate quite interesting. I once again refer all elected members to the summary statement that sits straight after what the item is. And within there, it gives the context of the item itself. And it would appear, just to have a number of the items tonight, that this is probably not being read in its fullest. On this one here, the proposal has been developed over a broad engineering consideration of the CBD speed environment, and it initially arose through design and road safety review undertaken in the Marikana and Brooklyn Street Black Spot project area. Now, that review is under the Black Spot Fund. However, just to cut all this through, because elected members can read this, this is being presented tonight to have a trial, and it's subject to the council endorsing it, which then they will undertake community and stakeholder consultation, and that involves main roads and the WA Police Force, which have been part of the conversation this evening. The consultation then, and the outcomes from that, then the council do further technical assistance or assessment, and they then consider the travel time, the network operation impacts, and that will again be presented back to elected members in October. I don't see a problem with that. I think that is a very prudent use of the resources, and I also think it's a great way of getting our community involved, our main stakeholders involved, and I think then that will give council, without doubt, where we should be going with this. No decision is being made until October, except for trial for 2 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Any speakers against? Speakers for? Councillors, before the mover has a right of reply, I will be speaking for the item tonight. Councillors, I just want to be very clear in highlighting that tonight we are not deciding whether speed limits will change. We are deciding whether the community should be consulted on a proposal. As highlighted by all councillors around the table, road safety is important, particularly when pedestrians, cyclists, businesses and traffic interact in our CBDs. But equally important is hearing from residents, businesses, main roads and WA Police before any final decision can be made. I feel that proposed consultation will allow council to consider both safety outcomes and any impacts on accessibility, travel times and economic activity before considering any position on this item. I don't believe what has been proposed tonight and in the form of procedural request is a one or the other option, as the information reported back, I would expect, would include much of what elected members were seeking, and as such, tonight I am supportive of this motion. The mover has the right to reply.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to clarify that the questions taken on notice, the response does mention that the proposal has developed from broader engineering consideration of the CBD speed environment, initially arising through the design and road safety review undertaken for the Maritana and Brooklyn Street Black Spot projects. This is where it has come from. This is an issue that is being raised throughout many communities. And although I am not completely sold on whether the areas we have allocated are correct, as mentioned by many of the councillors this evening, and I want to repeat, we are currently going into consultation only. I believe the community will have their say, and that is where we are at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. With that, councillors, I will put the item to the vote. Or those for the item moved by Councillor Viskovich and seconded by Councillor Della, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against? 1. The item is carried, 7 votes to 1. With that, councillors, we do move on to item 14.5.2, the streetlight replacement project progress report after phase 1 completion. Before we do consider this item, councillors, I am going to move a permissible procedural motion under 11.1. Give me one moment. That the meeting is adjourned for a period of 10 minutes, joining back at 7:29 to allow for some additional information based on some requests which have come through. With that, we will adjourn. No need to. No. Thank you very much. Council and anyone viewing, Council did adjourn the meeting for a period of 10 minutes to allow some additional information in relation to this item, which is item 14.5.2 Streetlight Replacement Project, Progress Report after Phase 1 completion. There is a procedural motion that has been submitted from Councillor House. Based on the additional information, Councillor House, did you want to continue with that procedural motion? Or potentially consider a alternative or anything in that regard moving forward?
I'm actually, I don't know, quite frankly, Mr. Deputy. I actually don't know. Let's not put it up because it's embarrassing enough for me as it is. So no, let's not put it up.
Okay, so we won't consider a procedural motion. At that point in time, councillors, we have an officer's recommendation unless there is an alternative being offered. Nil at this point in time. So with that in mind, there is an officer's recommendation. Can I call for a mover and a seconder? Moved, Councillor Viskovich. Seconded, Councillor Bodica. Councillor Viskovich, would you like to speak to the item? No. Councillor Bodica, would you like to speak to the item? Councillor Bodica.
Thank you. Look, I just think that this is a good program. It's really important that we, go along with this because we need, brighter lighting in, the street. There's many areas in the city that actually, don't have street lights that are working, and to be able to go through and, go with this program, I think it's really important. And, it's also going to be helping with, things like the LED bulbs and stuff like that's going to be helping the environment too. So I ask everybody to support it, please.
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. A speaker against the item? Speaker for? Councillor Della.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be speaking to support this motion as well. It's clear that improvements in compliance and safety out of this process, and a good example of the life cycle asset management plan that will also come back to council. And I don't see this process has already been mobilised and paid for, and the state government have also made a commitment, so I'd be quite happy to progress this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Della. Speaker against? Councillor House.
I'm actually wondering what we're considering tonight, because if as we've just been informed that this has already been paid for. So I'm not sure what we can actually do in terms of any consideration. Are we receipting the transaction? Are we endorsing the master plan? Do we have a master plan? My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of a master plan is it's a document. It's a plan. And I can't see for the life of me how someone can spend $657,000 on a plan. And we've moved a motion tonight and nobody spoke about the plan, the master plan. It's in the recommendation and we have not mentioned it. What does it do? What do we get from it? Why are you supporting it? I'll tell you why I'm not supporting it, because I don't know what $657,000 gets us. And it is our job to know.
Thank you, Councillor House. Speaker for? Speaker against? Speaker for? Before the mover has the right to reply, I will be speaking for this item tonight. Councillors, actually found this to be a really positive story for our community. Approximately 1,200 streetlights have been upgraded, improved compliance has been achieved, and we have begun to reduce some of our energy costs. all the while enhancing community safety outcomes, which as a result, as recent surveys have shown, remain a significant focus areas for our community. The fact that this work has been funded through an external funding arrangement and is delivering long-term benefits through better lighting, lower operational costs and improved reliability is a real win for our community. The proposed next phase will build on those outcomes, and again, this phase is funded. Much like I'm sure many councillors around the table, and including Councillor House who expressed it tonight, I would be interested in some additional information, particularly around the master plan. However, I'm happy for that to be through a concept forum as we advance through, and I don't feel that information request should hold up the advancement to the next phase. So as such, I'll be supporting this item tonight. The mover has the right of reply.
Thank you for that. Look, there's...
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Bodica. I have Councillor Viskovich as the mover.
Oh, you would move, sorry.
Councillor Viskovich, would you like
Sorry.
to...
Oh, good.
You're
Thank
right
you,
of reply.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
I understand the question around the 600,000 plus for a master plan, and I agree we need to understand what we're getting for that investment. But I also think we need to recognise that this project is already delivering. We've upgraded around the 1,200 streetlights, as previously mentioned. We're improving compliance and safety, and importantly, we're reducing our ongoing energy costs. This is also a $2.5 million state government funded program, so we're using external funding to improve our infrastructure while creating ongoing savings for the city. For me, the master plan is about making sure the remaining funding is spent strategically and in areas where it's actually needed, and I hope to see you all support this motion this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. With that, we will put the item for the votes. All those in favour, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. All those opposed? 1. The item is passed, 7 votes to 1. We'll now move on to item 14.5.3, the approval to award RFT 26017, reconstruction of Burt Street and Lionel Street roundabout. Councillor O'Donnell, you have disclosed a conflict of interest. If you can please leave the room. Councillors, I have received a procedural motion indication from Councillor House. Councillor House, would you like to move your procedural motion?
That council adjourns consideration of this item to the 22nd of September meeting and refers the report back to the administration to provide an itemised cost breakdown separating the core roundabout construction and associated drainage infrastructure from the Lionel Street car parking works, and clarification on value engineering options to ensure ratepayer funds are spent strictly on the essential roundabout and drainage safety components. That's the motion as read.
Thank you, Councillor House. Would you like to state your reason for the motion?
I would like to state my reasons for the motion. Hopefully they're fairly obvious. Is what I'm supporting, what I'm asking for is transparency around how our money is to be spent. I'm not opposing the works themselves, but it's upon me to question when something doesn't look right. And when we have one tender and its value is $1.23 million, it's an expensive roundabout. We have to ask the question, why is it expensive? And when I put the question to the officers and I asked for a cost breakdown, they couldn't give that to me. That was a lump sum tender. Now that has a lot of concerns for me broadly, because it loses control of variances. I'm not sure how we're going to manage that. But when it's broken down into itemised sections, it's far more easier to manage. My other concern is that the rating of the road is for a heavy vehicle. The officers advise themselves that it's for a 20 metre a 26 metre B double. And I don't think you have to be a truck driver to know that is a decent sized vehicle. So the design has been rated to that. I mean, I'm just a lay person, but I think that's over designing.
Councillor House, you are starting to enter into a debate. I
Sure.
think the reason for the motion has been captured. Thank you.
Sure.
With that, councillors, I'd like to call
Information, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
a question, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, it is. This item has been recommended that it is commercial in confidence. Figures that are being used, I think we need to be cautious. Or maybe the figures that are being used in debate. My understanding is that some figures may have already been put out there to the public.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I will note your question. The attachments are confidential, however, the item within the report isn't. So if there are matters which relate within the report and been disclosed, that's fine. Obviously, if there's anything above and beyond that, that'll be assessed and we'll work through from there. But thank you for your question, Councillor Johnson. With that, I will call for a...
Question.
Is the matter being discussed confidential in nature? With that, I will call for a seconder for the procedural motion. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Houses? Councillor Walker-Dunstan? With that, councillors, we will put the item to a vote. All those in favour of the procedural motion moved by Councillor House and seconded by Councillor Walker-Dunstan, please raise your hand. I'll be very, very last minute. Councillor Viskovich, is there a question?
I just wanted to clarify that should we defer this item, is there going to be any concerns with the works being completed? Is there any set time frame we've got already?
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Mr. CEO?
Look, that's a question I'd have to take on notice. I'm not aware.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. With that, councillors, I will put tongue-tied here. I will put the procedural motion moved by Councillor House, seconded by Councillor Walker-Dunstan up for a vote. All those for the procedural motion, please raise your hand. For all those opposed?
Against.
3. The procedural motion is passed, 4 votes to 3. If we could please have Councillor O'Donnell back in the room.
Point of information, Mr. Mayor, please.
Councillor Johnson is relating to the item that's just been passed. Is that what you're asking for information on?
No, it was the vote. Can you please do the vote? You were saying 4-3, which is 7 without over on the table.
That is correct. Councillor O'Donnell was outside of the room.
Thank you.
Thank you. Against. 4 votes to 3. 4. With that, counts. Yes. Three. Counts the votes for, just as a clarification. Please, Councillor O'Donnell, if you'd mind to go back out again, my apologies. Sorry, Councillor Johnson, I'll just respond to the question first from Councillor Della. The votes for were Councillor Walker-Dunstan, Councillor House, Councillor Viskovich and the Deputy Mayor. The votes against was Councillor Bodica, Councillor Della and Councillor Johnson. Councillor Johnson, did you have a question regarding the vote or outcome, or was that answered?
This
Oh, my
was a
apologies.
procedural motion,
That is correct.
and there should be no debate on a procedural motion.
That is correct.
Did we then accept that the procedural motion then became the motion?
The procedural motion doesn't have to be accepted to be the motion Councillor Johnson, the procedural motion was for 11.1 B, which is that the question be adjourned until the 22nd of September 2026 ordinary council meeting.
Okay, so for the interest of the public, it is now adjourned until the next council meeting. Thank you.
That is correct. Thank you. If we could please have Councillor Donald back. Thank you, Councillor Donald. With that, councillors, we now move on to item 14.6.1, D058/26, the telecommunications infrastructure 255 Hay Street, Kalgoorlie. We do have disclosure of interest from Councillor Walker-Dunstan, who is now vacating the room. Councillors, I would like to call for a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation. Moved by Councillor Della. Seconded.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Johnson. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Della, would you like to speak to this item? No, thank you. Councillor Johnson, would you like to speak to this item?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Would any councillors like to speak to this item? Councillor House, for or against? Against. Councillor House, speaking against the item.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. What we have before us tonight is a telecommunications application, and it's within the mixed use zone. It's essentially a residential zone. People live in this zone. And what we are considering is a tower that is double the height of what is permissible. The reason that we're considering it is, for one reason only, is that officers don't have the discretion to make that decision. Understandably. It's a 20-metre tower in a residential area. Now, if council were to consider this item favourably, the implications of that is the potential for any mixed-use property in that area having the same capability to build a 20-metre tower in their backyard. And to put some drama around that, that is 100% a reality of making a decision that goes against what the scheme allows. So this, again, so if the councillors understand, this is not permitted. We are having to go above and beyond what the scheme requires and what the community has set out as an expectation in the town planning scheme. The onus has been on the applicant to obtain evidence that they're unable to install this in a more suitable location. That hasn't been presented. We haven't had presented to us the public benefit of this tower. It is providing direct private communication link to a private mining company. The state planning policy is very clear on this. There's no ambiguity. It says that the telecommunications infrastructure subject to the policy must be for public benefit. So I question, where is the public benefit? I question, where is the controls that we can put in place to stop other properties from doing this? Where are the controls to stop this applicant from leasing this out to other private businesses and using this just as a private telecommunications tower? The argument that you might make in your own head that I'm driving around town and I see these things everywhere, that's a fair assumption or it's a fair conclusion. But it must be understood that those towers that you see are on Crown land. They're on state government land. They didn't even have to come to council, and they didn't. This one has come to council. This is our opportunity to say, will we accept this? Would you accept a 20-metre tower being built in the next door property to yourself. That's how we have to consider this. I'm a neighbour to this property. How would this affect me? So I would encourage councillors to think wisely and think what the implications would be for not tomorrow, not 5 years' time, but for the next application to come along and essentially getting the same afforded luxury. That's all I have to say on that. Thank you, Mr. Deputy.
Thank you, Councillor House. Speaker for? Speaker against? Speaker for? Before the mover has a right to reply, I will speak for the item tonight. However, Councillor House has raised some really great points to consider as part of this as well. Council, as this is a planning matter, Council must assess the application against the relevant planning framework rather than personal views on telecommunication infrastructure generally. I think that's been highlighted already at the table, and it's important that we remember that as we make a determination. The officer's report outlines the need for the infrastructure, consultation outcomes, and the relevant planning considerations. As my understanding is, our role is to determine whether the proposal satisfies those requirements and whether the identified impacts can be appropriately managed through conditions of approval, which I feel they can be. So as such, at this point in time, I'm going to be in support of the officer's recommendation tonight. Thank you. Mover has the right of reply. None taken. With that, councillors, we will put the item to a vote. All those for, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For ease, Councillor Johnson was Councillor Della, Councillor Donald, Councillor Viskovich, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those opposed, Councillor House and Councillor Bodica. The item is passed, 5 votes to 2. If we could please have Councillor Walker-Dunstan back in the room. Thank you, Councillor Walker-Dunstan. With that, councillors, we now move on to item 14.6.2, the City Grants Program Major Grants. There is an officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Moved by Councillor Bodica. Seconded. Seconded, Councillor Della. Councillor Bodica, would you like to speak to the item? Councillor Della, would you like to speak to the item? Would any councillors like to speak to the item? No, councillors, I will speak to the item and I'll be speaking for. Councillors, the Major Grants Program is one of the ways council invests directly into our community outcomes. Tonight's recommendation supports a diverse range of sporting, cultural, tourism and community wellbeing projects. While not every application receives the amount requested, the objective is to ensure public funds are targeted towards initiatives that deliver measurable benefits to our community, are eligible under application parameters and align with the city's strategic priorities. Following the additional information provided by city officers, I feel what is being proposed addresses this. That said, I would also like to acknowledge all the organisations that have taken the time to apply and the work that they do in our community. Mining and jobs bring people to our community, but it's the work done by our community sector that helps keep people here, and that is noticed and valued. With that, councillors, I would encourage you to support the officer's recommendation tonight. A question, Councillor House?
Isn't this in reply to your motion to have more information brought back to council?
It's an adjournment, a procedural motion to adjourn the item with more information which was provided through the concept forum.
Okay, what additional information was provided as per your request?
Thank you, Councillor House. The additional information provided was in the form of the booklet that was provided to all councillors. Sorry, Councillor Johnson, I'll just finish answering the question, then I will go to yourself. It was provided in the form of the booklet at the concept forum, which all councillors had, which included the update to the questions and conditions that were set through the previous procedural motion that I proposed at the last council meeting. Councillor Johnson?
Yes, Mr Mayor, the debate has been closed and your closing remarks closes that debate, so there are no other questions.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. However, as presiding officer, I was happy to take that question. The mover has the right to reply. None taken. With that, Sorry, Councillor Bodica. I did get the shake from Councillor Della. Councillor Bodica.
Sorry about that. I got confused over what happened with Councillor Viskovich last time. Look, I think, there's so many great programs and it's really good to see that the city's supporting them. And, congratulations to those that did get the support, and for those that didn't, I encourage them to go ahead next year and apply again, because we need those groups in the community, and, it's helping build the fabric of the community and also helping with inclusion. So I'd urge people to please go ahead and support the program.
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. With that, councillors, I will put a final question. We have had closing remarks, but Councillor Walker-Dunstan.
Sorry. I was...
No, Councillor Johnson. I am happy to accept the question for Councillor Walker-Dunstan.
Can it be added, another point, that a report is returned to Council on the advocacy and responsibility of responsible government agents and stakeholders in relation to the funding being provided to the services in relation to...
Unfortunately, debate has closed, Councillor Walker-Dunstan, and we have had closing remarks, and we're moving into the vote, so we can't consider it at this point in time. Thank you, Councillor Walker-Dunstan. With that, we will go to the vote, councillors. All those in support of the officer's recommendation, please raise your hand.
Support.
Thank you. We have Councillor Bodica, Councillor Della, Councillor Donald, Councillor Viskovich, Councillor Walker-Dunstan, Councillor Johnson, and the Deputy Mayor. All those opposed? Councillor House. That is passed 6 votes to 1. With that, councillors will now move on to item 15, which is 15.1, the SEER Equipment Committee, which... Sorry, give me one moment. The vote was passed 6 votes 1. There's 7 in here, sorry. We'll just double check. So I have Councillor Bodica, Councillor Della, Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Viskovich, Councillor Walker-Dunstan and the Deputy Mayor. And against I have Councillor House. Councillor Johnson, my apologies, we haven't recorded your vote. Thank you, Councillor Della, for noting that. Were you for or against the City Grants Program, Major Grants? For?
For.
Thank you. That is passed 7 votes to 1. Thank you, Councillor Della. With that, councillors, we'll move on to item 15, which is confidential items. Councillors, can we have a motion to move behind closed doors? Moved by Councillor Della, seconded by Councillor Viskovich. No opposition. Carried 8 votes, 0. invite everyone back in, if there's anyone left. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who's waited as well. Under item 15.1.1, the progress of CEO recruitment, Council did consider two recommendations, and I will read the outcome of both of those. The first was that Council, by absolute majority, endorsed the proposed CEO job description and selection criteria as contained in Attachment 1, and that was passed in favour, 8 votes to nil. The second recommendation considered by Council was that Council 1 endorsed the completed application pack to be included in the Chief Executive Officer recruitment advertisement as per attachments 2 and 3, and 2, authorise recruitment consultant in consultation with the presiding member and the acting CEO to make only minor administration or formatting amendments to the application pack that do not materially alter the duties, responsibilities or selection criteria approved by Council. And this was also passed 8 votes to nil. Item 16 was moved forward to the start of the meeting, which will lead us into item 17. But councillors, before I do close the meeting tonight, I'd like to thank my fellow councillors, staff and our community members for their participation in this evening's meeting. Tonight's agenda has reflected Council's ongoing commitment to financial sustainability, community investment, public safety and planning for the future growth and prosperity of our city. I'd like to acknowledge the work that goes into preparing these matters for Council's consideration and the time spent by Council to consider these items, and thank everyone involved for their contributions to achieving positive outcomes for our community. With that, I declare the ordinary Council meeting on the 25th of August 2026 closed at 8:22 p.m. And thank you all, and please have a wonderful evening. Thank you.